So, Bobby, I have a question for you.
What's up?
What's your Dave?
My Dave.
So
is that an acronym?
Yeah,
Okay.
We've made it this. Angela and I were talking about it the other night. So my wife loves the movie Dave.
Just weirdly her favorite movie.
It is definitely her favorite movie. But it's not even so much that I mean it like, what's your favorite movie? But like, it's the kind of movie that she can put in whenever and like watch it over and over and over again. And she still loves it. And it's like that. It's always that go-to movie. Like, she's doing stuff around the house. There's nothing on TV she wants to just put on. So she puts Dave on. It's her go-to. Like if she were going to be stranded on an island
Dave.
and she wanted one movie that she could only ever see again, and it would be obviously be repeatedly, it would be Dave. So Angela and I were talking about it the other night. I'm curious, what's your Dave?
I probably don't have an official Dave because I don't have enough time to have something on it just in the background. Because you know me, I'm watching 100 different TV shows, so there's got to always be something that I haven't seen on, as opposed to something I've seen many, many times. But if I were to have that one movie that I could just put on and just watch and just jump in and out of, it'd probably be Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good pick.
Yeah, it's a good one.
All right. Well, now, Angela, when I brought it up the other night, or when it kind of came up, you couldn't really make a decision.
Yeah, I had a hard time because I enjoy so many films, but I think we landed on Hitchhiker's Guide. It's something that I could just play over and over again.
Nice. I went with Scott Pilgrim. Scott Pilgrim is my Dave.
Yeah.
Again, I don't mean that. Like, I don't think it's my favorite movie. I don't think I have a favorite movie.
Yeah.
But it's just...
Wait, no favorite movie at all?
I don't know. It's
couldn't.
It's tough. There's just so many movies I like, and like trying to pin one down is like, man, this is my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
I used to. And if I went with the one that I used to, which definitely definitely not my favorite movie anymore. This was a while back.
What was it?
It's probably a Quentin Tarantino movie.
No, but they would be up there.
What is it?
This was American Beauty, actually.
Okay.
Really?
That's good.
I loved that movie when it came
Right.
out. And it was
I
just...
never would have guessed that.
Really? Yeah.
No.
But,
I mean, it's no Five Goes West, but it's good.
I don't know that I would have... Yeah, I wouldn't pick it now. And even if that were still my favorite movie, I wouldn't pick it as my Dave. Like, I wouldn't watch it over and over again.
No.
Scott Pilgrim, I could watch over and over.
Yeah.
It's still funny every time. I love it every time.
There's new things, too.
Yeah.
Between the movie and the books. Like, there's... Every time I either read or watch it again, there's always new stuff that catches me.
Right. So.
Well, I have two movies that are probably like my all-time favorites, and one of them is Empire Strikes Back. But as far as the other one, that I sometimes interchange the two movies, it just sort of depends, really. But it's not one that I would put on in the background and just have on. And that's Braveheart. That's like it interchanges for me between Empire Strikes Back and Braveheart is my favorite movie of all time. But it's not, I can never put that on in the background. I would get absorbed by it every time and wouldn't be able to just have it on and not sort of pay attention to it. Whereas Empire Strikes Back, I could have it on in the background and not pay attention to it, but sort of just tune in and out of it.
Right.
I'll always end up saying stuff like, oh yeah, it's definitely in my top 3 favorites, but I couldn't tell you what those top 3 are.
Yeah.
I like
if
too
I had
many
to pick
things.
3.
Yeah.
Maybe by next week I'll try to pick 3, but
I
would need a week to
couldn't do it.
really think about it.
See a list of all movies ever made, and then I'll give you 50% of those as my top 3 favorites.
Wow, maybe that sounds like we're going to have to do that at some point.
Top 3 of all time.
Or top
And even
5.
then,
Possible.
I'll pick 3, and then the next week I'll be like, oh shit, I forgot about this.
Yeah.
I'll do it every week. I'll constantly edit it.
Yeah.
Because
Well, we have to
I'll change
give
my
you
mind.
enough room. Give you enough room to at least have 10. Because we do that with our movies
year,
of the year.
yeah.
So, yeah.
But see, I start getting into 10s and 15s and stuff, and then it starts pulling in movies that are important, not just necessarily my favorites, but it's like, oh, well, you need this sort of movie because blah, 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 and then it ends up a forever long list of impossible movies.
Yeah.
I could probably come up with a list, and I think I'd be able to pretty much stick to it. I mean, obviously, some things may move around as more movies come out throughout the years, but generally speaking, I probably could come up with a solid top 10.
We'll have to do that at some point.
Definitely.
But in the meantime, we have a lot to talk about this week. So let's get started with the show. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Flicker Effect number 108. It is Sunday, October 26th, 2014. I'm David Lotz, joined this week by Bobby Jackson.
Hello, hello.
And this week, my good friend Angela Lopez is
Hey.
on. How's it going?
Good.
You're actually here in the room with me.
I am.
I have to mention that because normally anybody who's ever on is always on Skype.
Yeah.
There were a couple times Carlton would come up to visit, and he'd record here in the room. But it's still really odd to have someone right here.
It is weird, yeah.
It just livens the place up a bit to have a female voice on there, though.
It does.
Yeah, but I'm staring at him while I'm talking, but I'm only hearing him through
That's how
headphones.
you have conversations
It is,
anyway.
but not with headphones on. It's
Not
very,
with headphones,
It's
no.
very odd. As if I had my phone up and I was talking to him in person over a cell phone. It would be weird.
Nice. So, you've never been on before. This is your first podcast, I guess, period, right?
Yeah.
You've never done a podcast before.
When I was a kid, I used to have one of those karaoke machines, and we would record ourselves doing the news.
Nice.
But I guess, in the last 20 years, never really recorded myself before.
I remember when I first started thinking about really wanting to do a podcast. I know you were one of the first people I talked to about it.
I was pretty adamant, no.
And yeah, I could not convince you to do this. I was adamant that I'm like, come on, once you do it, you'll be fine. And you were no way.
Honestly, the reason I said yes this time is because listening to the podcast, I find myself wanting to argue with you about things. And I could call you, but it would be too late by then.
All right.
Ooh, it's going to be a good show today.
I'm here now.
Well, so to give everyone listening an idea of your point of view with movies, what are you a fan of?
Oh man, I guess that's tough. Kind of everything. I really, really enjoy film. It has to be pretty perfectly bad for me not to want it,
But there's no particular genre that you're like, that's not my thing. I don't really watch these kind of movies.
No, not really.
You'll watch anything.
I won't go out of my way to see gratuitous horror,
Okay.
the Saw movies. I won't go out of my way to see it. But I also, if I found myself watching it, I would sit there.
It wouldn't bother you.
No, not really.
I'd definitely go out of my way to see Saw movies.
Ugh.
I love that series. Matter of fact, that's probably my favorite horror series.
Really?
Yeah, I love that series.
Have you heard that apparently they want to reboot it?
Oh, no way. I
just
would
did
be
it.
so down for
I'll have
that.
to look that up while we're talking, but I know I that passed by my eye when
You know what I
looking through
love
news
about
this week.
that series so much? And that's why I'd be down for a reboot, is because I just love the inventive ways they find of killing people off. Because everything else is you've got this psycho horror kind of person that's like Jason or Freddy, and they're killing people and they're doing different ways. But these are all these inventive traps and contraptions that this guy created to make people play into their own base instincts and fall right into the traps and then try and figure out their way to get out of the trap.
Does
But
that
usually-
extend to Final Destination movies, stuff like that?
I like those too.
The
but I
inventive
don't-
ways, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I like fantasy, monster movies, stuff like that. Any sort of romantic sci-fi or Her, where people fall in love with robots. Have you seen Robot and Frank, something like that? Frank and the Robot?
I've seen most of it. It was one of those movies one day I put on Netflix while I was up here in the office doing some stuff, and then I never finished it.
It's in my top 3 favorite.
Really?
Of my impossibly long list of movies. Yeah, I love that movie.
Wow. All right.
People making friends with robots, I really enjoy. I don't know why I like it so much.
That's a funny thing to like.
I really, really, really love when people make friends with robots.
Interesting.
So what about the
love
Iron
it.
Giant? Do you like that?
Yeah.
I've never seen the
Oh,
other
God. Oh, it's a tearjerker. It hurts.
I know. I hear so many good things about it, and I need to
It's
see
really
it.
good, and you just cry like a baby. It's so good.
Yeah, I'll watch it at some point. But I say that about a lot of things.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, I do.
Matter of fact, you could probably get a T-shirt made at this point.
Hey, we caught up on some stuff together today. We watched a little bit of American Horror Story Freak Show.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, finally. But not much. Well, we saw the first episode and then halfway through the second episode.
Yeah.
What do you think about that clown?
Dude. All right. So,
oh boy.
So you've been watching it?
Oh yeah. I'm like maybe I haven't seen this past week's episode, but I'm pretty much caught up on it.
I just have a question for you then. If you found yourself walking down the street and there was this kind of bloody, super dirty clown that walked up to you, would you think, I should hire him for my kid? I should talk to this guy. I should see how his day is going. He's wearing another person's scalp. Like, turn away from this thing.
And no, matter of fact, what I would probably do if I was driving down the road and I saw that, I'd probably accelerate as fast as I can, aim my car at him, and knock him off the road, because I'd probably be doing the world a favor, because he's out to get somebody.
There's clearly something going on there that no one should be a part of.
Even the first scene when he walks up to the two near Lake Okeechobee and the girl's just standing there looking at him. I mean, yeah, she's got kind of a somewhat horrified look on her face, but she still talks to him.
She stands there.
Right?
Immediately, I start waving her away. Get out of there. What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
If that bad smile, scary, eerie, teeth-looking thing isn't bad enough, he has like these pigtail type things. So, like,
and it looks like someone else's scalp attached to his head, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's fucked up, and I don't. Yeah, I mean, it's so far I really like the show, as I did with the first season.
Yeah,
I watched the whole first season. I loved it, and again, for whatever reason, I haven't seen seasons 2 and 3. Which I hear great things about.
Yeah,
but
2 is really.
It's
good.
a great show, but that's the one part of it. I'm like, I don't understand. Is there something that we don't know yet? Like, to everyone else, that he actually looks normal, and we're seeing his bad side or something? Like,
I mean, they're taken aback enough, right?
Yeah,
that he clearly must not be in tip-top shape. But
yeah, I don't know, it's weird.
My guess is that since back in that time, and maybe traveling carnivals were prevalent, and there'd be sort of weird clowns. Maybe it was just
that's a weird time to live.
It was the 50s. I mean, it wasn't that long ago. And I mean, you definitely had like the homeless, the hobo clowns and stuff like that. But this guy has blood on his face. Like that was never a clown character.
Yeah, it's funny. But I like the show. But I still got I think it's 3 episodes in.
Yeah.
What now? Oh, that reminds me. Didn't you say that our what was it? Was there another show you were trying to catch up on, or that you were going to make an attempt? Or you said you had a couple things that you watched or maybe caught up on. Was that it?
I don't remember.
Oh no, you were just saying like, oh, you guys were there, and so you got caught up on a couple things. I thought maybe
we saw some movies.
Well, we watched. Okay. Well, she watched for the first time Edge of Tomorrow, which I had seen. I picked it up.
What'd you think?
I picked it up on Blu-ray like the day it came out, and I hadn't watched it again yet. But yeah,
it was phenomenal.
Yeah, you like
that one? So good. Action Groundhog's Day. It was so good.
Okay, so my question would be, when you saw the previews initially for it, did you just not, like most people, think that it was going to be any good, so you just kind of avoided it? Or
that is an interesting. I did not see any previews for it.
Yeah, she has an interesting situation with entertainment, pretty much in general. It's for someone who loves movies as much as you do.
Well, I used to see them on the reg.
Yeah, but now you live a life on tour.
Yeah.
And you pretty much don't.
I don't have cable.
You don't have cable.
Don't have a
and
computer.
You don't go out of your way to watch stuff on your phone.
I do not watch trailers on my phone.
So most of the time, from my understanding, you're seeing movies, and when you do get a chance to go to the movie theater and see a movie, you're just seeing a movie completely like, I don't know what this is.
Yeah, I'm in the blind. It's fairly rare that where I post up the arenas and stuff that I play at, that there's a theater close enough for me to get to, because I don't have a car or anything. I don't drive. So it has to be within walking or cab distance. And when I do go to theaters, I try to make a point to pick movies that I don't know anything about. So the last couple of months, I haven't been near a theater, and that's why I wasn't able to see Edge of Tomorrow. But I had heard from a coworker that it was coming out, that it was based on a book. and that they changed the title. That was pretty much all I knew about it. And it was a Japanese book.
Right.
And that was pretty much all I knew. But I had heard a bit, just that it was based on that and that I should go see it. So I made a point to be like, okay, I need to remember this title. It's something that I want to see. And when I brought it up to David, he was like, oh yeah, I've got it. We can watch it as soon as you get here. So I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know who was in it. Didn't know the premise. Didn't know anything. It was very surprising.
Wow. You went
really,
in
really
totally
great.
cold.
Yeah, completely blind.
Now, talking about Edge of Tomorrow, I feel the need to bring up something that's been somewhat of a debate all weekend. That is kind of along the same lines of Edge of Tomorrow, kind of same genre. Looper.
Oh.
So I don't know how it first came up. I don't know if it was the night we went and saw John Wick, which we'll get to in a second. But you for some reason brought up Looper. Again, I don't remember why, but you were not a fan. In fact, you seem to hate it more than anything. I find it hard to believe you think it's the worst movie ever.
It's up there. Like, I've intentionally watched bad movies, and this is on par with those.
You liked Looper, right, Bobby?
I did. I felt, but here's the thing. I liked it in spite of itself in a way, because there's like those, anytime you do a movie and you do time travel, there's always these inconsistencies. And so I would see some of those in Looper. But even with all that aside, I still like the movie just on general principle.
Yeah. I'm right there with you. I felt the need to bring up right now the Rotten Tomato score, 93%, Angela.
It's outrageous. It's outrageous.
That's a pretty damn good rating.
I don't know what world I'm living in. That so
why
many
did you
people.
not like it?
Oh God, it was so bad. It was so bad.
But what in particular?
Oh God.
That'd be something.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's face is a big one. It's jarring every time I see him, and unfortunately he's in a lot of it. And I really like that kid. I really like him. And they ruined his face. God. And it was... the scene that I brought up in particular with David is the scene where he's crawling towards the safe house to, like, get back, and they're butchering his body to like, I guess, teach him a lesson or something. David doesn't remember the scene. Do you remember it?
I've remembered a little bit now. Yeah. It's been a while since I watched it. But
where he's like
I know what
crawling and they're
about.
like chopping off his fingers and his feet and then his knees and all of this stuff, and then they kill him, and he ends up dead on the doorstep of this safe house thing that he was crawling towards. Now, if they had killed his past or present self, then his future self has no business being there. He never would have been the person to send the people being killed back in time, Yeah. So it doesn't make any sense that I'm having to watch this guy being tortured and just seeing all the scars, because if he didn't have legs, then he wouldn't have been there to begin with, and just... Oh, man. I really, really didn't like that movie.
I really feel like you need to watch it again.
Oh, God. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I do too now. Because I know I had issues with it in certain parts like that, but I don't remember that one specifically.
It's so bad.
Yeah, talking about it's made me want to watch it again. I think, Angela, you need to see it again.
It's not happening.
You need to give it another chance.
It's never going to happen.
Come on.
Absolutely
so
not.
good. Crazy.
I wonder if that would be a good idea, like in the future, we revisit movies that we thought were bad and to see if we come out with a different perspective afterwards.
I was like that with, this was a long time ago, but I was like that with Pulp Fiction.
You were wrong about that, though. I'm right about this.
I remember seeing Pulp Fiction when I was in high school with my girlfriend at the time, and by the time I saw it in the theater, it had been out a while, so I had heard a lot of the hype already. And when I finally saw it, I was just like, really? Like, I don't think I had seen Reservoir Dogs yet, so this was my first Tarantino experience. And I just remember thinking, I don't really see what the big deal is. And I don't remember how many years later it was that I finally revisited it. I'm like, holy shit, this is like one of the greatest movies ever made. And I still feel that way. I love that movie.
Yeah.
I can't believe I saw it at one point and thought it was, whatever. But
this will never be Pulp Fiction.
I think you should give Looper another chance.
Looper will never.
Give it another year. Give it some time.
Be Pulp Fiction.
Let it empty out of your brain.
Oh, when did this movie come out? Because I saw it right away.
When was that? I'll have to look it up. But
maybe like 3 years ago.
Was it even
Okay,
that
so
long?
let's say I saw it 3 years ago. I am just as angry today as I was 3 years ago.
It was 2012.
It's never going to fade. I will always be
okay.
this angry about this terrible, terrible movie.
September of 2012 it came out, but not terrible. But anyway, we did see this weekend together. We saw John Wick. Bobby, you saw too.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, I did.
And then again, this was an experience. We went to the theater. You had no idea.
No, I was
Even
blind.
though I know via text ahead of time, like a couple days before, I think I mentioned that Keanu Reeves was in it, but you had already even forgotten that, I think.
Yeah.
So we went to the theater, and
That was actually my first thought when I saw it. It was, oh, hey, Keanu Reeves.
Look at Keanu.
He's got tight pants on.
So yeah, you didn't know anything, and again, I just find that so interesting. I wish I could see more movies like that, but that's just not going to happen.
It's nice. I end up being really surprised, pleasantly surprised by a lot of stuff because I don't know who's going to be in what, and the ability to go in completely blind to something and not ever getting into the place where I'm like, I see a scene, I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen this 15 times in commercials. Like, no, I've never seen any part of this movie before. So it's really, really nice.
Yeah. And this is a movie that I think you admitted afterwards, like, had you seen a trailer for it, you probably wouldn't have been drawn to see John Wick.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't have gone.
But
I'd watch it on TV, but it's not the sort of thing that I would have gone into theaters for.
right. Well, what'd you think?
I liked it. It was fun. Again, not something that I would have picked out. Not something I think I would buy, but it was entertaining. I think is the nicest way.
It's entertaining.
It was entertaining.
You say that like it has problems, but I don't care. It was entertaining.
Yeah.
Bobby, what'd you think?
Okay, so I remember, I don't know how long ago, but a few shows back, we had watched the trailer for it, and it was like, oh, okay, this looks like it might be pretty fun, just a new outlet for Keanu Reeves. And to me, there's like this thing that is missing in Hollywood, or hasn't been around in a while. It's been dormant. And before we had big superhero films where you legitimately had people like Superman, Batman, and the Avengers, Spider-Man on the big screen, we just had the old-schooled, old-fashioned, all-American action hero. And you had your Bruce Willis's, your Arnold Schwarzenegger's, Sylvester Stallone's, and the list goes on. And then that had sort of faded because they either got a little bit older or just not as relevant as they used to be. And then when Keanu Reeves came out with The Matrix, it was like, oh man, this is like what we haven't seen in a while, just that good action film. And it broke ground with special effects and all those other aspects that it had going for it as well. And so recently it's sort of been a forgotten thing because the guys that used to do it are older, and the attempts that they've been doing lately have been sort of mixed. But then we get a couple movies in here lately that have that old school feel to it, like The Equalizer, and then now this John Wick. And I really, really enjoyed John Wick a lot because it had that old school flavor to it. It was just a good old fashioned, like almost 80s, 90s style action movie. You don't have to really know too much about the story. I mean, you get a decent setup, but that's not the most important aspect of the story. I mean, it's so telling in the sense that they named the movie after the character, even though no one knows who this character is. So you would think they might name it something like The Boogeyman or something, that pertains to something that would be sort of catching. But they make a point in this movie to show you that he is so badass that just the name of him, someone speaking his name, already strikes so much fear in the heart of people who say it. So that's what's so cool about this character, and that they just decided to name the movie John Wick and makes it something that you'll stick with. And if they do sequels, you'll be like, oh, I want to go see that John Wick too, because it gives you all that action that you want in a film without there being superheroes and people with powers.
Yeah, I guess both of you guys nailed it for me. I think I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I I think it's a good action flick. I think there are times where, it's not the best written film in the world, and there were plenty of times where the dialogue was pretty bad, and Keanu's Keanu. I mean, I like Keanu Reeves. I mean, I don't know why. No offense to him, but I say that because his acting's not.
It's not stellar.
I think there's something about I like him is. Maybe I feel like I need to be somewhat defensive of him. Like, there's so many actors like him that I feel people just beat the shit out of him in terms of his acting, and there's it could be so much worse. Like I've seen watch Gina Carano in a movie. That chick cannot fucking act. Like I don't know why. I just thought of her, but he's not great, but he's not horrendous. But there's times he's pretty bad. Like his first dialogue, I think in the movie, it was like. I forget what the scene was. Talking to Willem Dafoe early in the film, and I'm just like, oh man, even just this little bit, the delivery is like, man, this is.
Oh yeah.
You noticed they didn't give him a lot of dialogue.
No, they didn't, and that's wise. But yeah, overall, I still enjoyed it. It was a great action flick, and I don't know. I walked out of it feeling like. Man, I feel like I shouldn't like that as much as I did, but I did. I had a good time. Yeah. And I was really wondering what you were going to think when we walked out. Like
it's very different than the sort of thing that I normally seek out. The old school action thing that you were talking about before, Bobby. It's interesting that you said that because I think when we were leaving, I was saying if they had replaced Miss Jenkins, what was her name?
Miss Perkins?
Perkins?
Yeah.
If they'd replaced her with Olivia Wilde, I would have known everyone in that movie. Like, it was a big cast.
Yeah, it was.
Big. Everybody was someone who's been in a ton of stuff,
Yeah, I feel bad for Dean Winters because, like, as soon as you first saw him on screen, I don't know if you remember who he is.
Yeah.
But, this guy to my left, like, snickered. And I knew exactly why he snickered because I'm like, he's the Allstate guy. Yeah. Like, I know that's the first thing I think anyway when I see him. He did so many of those Allstate commercials as I'm Mayhem or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I
always think of Dennis from 30 Rock.
Oh, see, I don't.
And I always think of I don't know his character's name, but I always identify him as the character he was on Oz. And he was really good at that.
I never saw
that.
Yeah. But yeah, as soon as I saw him, I was like, hey, it's Dennis. Nice.
So maybe it's just me. I pretty much haven't seen him in much of anything.
Or
so
maybe everybody had that guy thought of
something
who
else.
Who knows? You thought of Mayhem. I thought of Dennis.
Yeah.
God knows his real name.
Maybe somebody else. Yeah.
He's Mayhem to me. He'll always be Mayhem.
Yeah.
But yeah, there were a lot of actors in it.
Well, that's the thing about it too. And it's like a lot of times you could easily give a movie crap for employing high quality actors, but not giving them very big roles or a lot to do. But I don't know, for some reason, it seems like it fit in this world, and it would be interesting going forward with a sequel if they decided to do that, to see those roles expanded somewhat. Because I mean, you have Ian McShane. He was like, I don't know what he was exactly in the movie, but he could get information for people, and he was at that hotel, and then but his role wasn't that big. And then you had Lance Reddick, who was like, if you watched, I guess the last show he was on was the Fringe. He was like the captain, and he's been in a ton of other stuff. But in this movie, he was just like the hotel concierge kind of guy.
Yeah.
But you see him in a ton of stuff, and he was in The Wire. That was like one of his big shows as well. And so there's just all these people, and Adrian Padalecki as Mrs. whatever her name was, Miss Hendricks, Miss Perkins. Yeah. She just appeared. It was sort of a nice little synchronicity going on because she just appeared in this past week's episode of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as a character from the comic books, and she was kicking ass in the show as well. And then I seen her pop up in John Wick. I was like, oh man, look, she's having like a little career moment right now. Yeah. So it's kind of cool. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of high quality actors in it.
I'd like to think it was meant to be like everyone in this world knows each other. We also know everyone sort of thing. Probably not.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
I'm going to go that way.
All right. Yeah.
because it was like that's what was so cool about it. I would love to see that expanded upon. Is that hotel was just like it's just this place where it's sort of supposed to be sort of sovereign ground where you're not supposed to have any
this really rad Assassin's
dealings.
Guild. Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It was like, man, that'd be such a. I would love to see a story, a movie just about that place, and see what
just
kind of
everybody using their little terms, the catch and release that he was talking about.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that place was really cool, and it's
Got
just
their
like,
own
man, I would
language.
love to see that place come alive, and all the different clientele that probably comes in there, and the things that go on in there.
And
Yeah.
how everything was revealed too. Like, you first get that glimpse of when he opens up, he digs and gets to his like case of guns, and on one side of it's all these fucking coins. You're
Yeah.
like, what the hell's with the coins?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then once you get to the hotel, it's like the kind of slow release of information about what's going on. It's like, wait, what? This is a hotel, the club, and it was just it was well handled.
Not a lot of guns in his cement entombment.
No.
It's like 3 or 4 handguns, right? It just didn't seem like a lot.
Yeah,
For-
I guess
for
it would
what he
almost seem
ultimately
like
used.
for something that like is so buried and you had to work so hard to get down to it.
You would have a
almost
little
expect
more-
some crazy ass shit. And
Yeah.
it was like that's all he needed, I guess. Even though
Yes.
you definitely saw him using bigger weapons throughout the movie
Yeah.
than what he revealed.
Well, and let's say, sure, he picked those up off of other people. I would still think, like, maybe a few more handguns. Something to warrant the amount of effort that goes into pouring all of that cement when you want to seal it up, If it's just a couple of handguns,
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right about that. It did seem a little excessive, but
it just seemed like a lot. It was a nice moment for him
Yeah.
to take the sledgehammer and, like, everybody's freaking out because the boogeyman is coming and he's working on, like, getting back into it, but...
It was like montage with that scene. It was montage with the scene with John Leguizamo, right? When he's talking to the guy on the
I
phone.
was really excited to see John
And,
Leguizamo. Oh,
and
yeah.
he was talking to them on the phone, and that great delivery of the line of John Wick," and he just goes, "Oh."
yeah.
Like the entire theater laughed.
Yeah, that happened a couple times where a character just was like, "Oh," it's like you kind of already know what
Yeah.
they're being. Yeah, that's what I liked about it. Is just that they didn't have to do too much to set up the fact that he's just this badass kind of guy. They just give you the basics of what you need, and just by what everyone around him, their expressions are, you just know that he's not to be messed with. And once he's put into a position where he has to fight, he brings it.
So John Wick did okay. Came in at number 2 this weekend. Pulled in just over 14 million.
What's number 1?
Ouija.
Wow.
I never would have guessed that. To be
Wow.
honest.
So we get to the theater, right? And I buy our tickets. And I guess you saw up on the marquee or whatever,
Yeah.
there was times for a movie called Ouija, and you start talking to the box
I was like,
office
oh,
clerk.
what's
There's
that?
a movie about Ouija.
What is that? He's like, oh, like the board game. It's like, I don't understand. Like Clue, but Clue at least has a story associated with. Like, there's no story for Ouija. It's just that. It's just that one thing.
I chalk it. Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I chalk it up to the fact that we're a week away from Halloween, and there's probably not been enough scary movies out there for people to go see.
Yeah.
And so they just felt like they wanted to see something, regardless of whether it was going to be good or not. I'm sure there's probably at least 3 or 4 good jump out and scare you type moments that maybe for whatever reason that gives you your fix, and you'd be all like it wasn't that good, but it had a few moments, and that's probably it. And I'm sure, or at least I would think, you'll probably see a decent nosedive next week.
Oh yeah,
Maybe
I'm
it's
sure
stellar,
that's why. But I'm still so shocked, like, because I haven't heard much about it, and I mean, I've seen some commercials for Ouija, but it's just
Is it super
been,
good?
It's
Does it
been
look
out of my
really
head.
good?
No, it doesn't. It's just been out of my head. So to look up the box office numbers and go, oh, wow, Ouija was number 1. I get it because of what you just said, Bobby. Like, yeah, it's before Halloween. There hasn't been a lot of scary movies, and there's just something about, hey, we're going to go out on a date, and it's almost Halloween. Scary movie. I'll pick that one.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's what it is. But it's like, whoa, really?
Wow.
Okay, Ouija then, 20 million. Yeah, John. I don't see what the budgets were for John Wick or Ouija. From what I've been reading, it sounds like the 14 million number, even though that sounds kind of tiny, is actually pretty decent for John Wick. So it probably didn't have a huge budget.
I'm guessing neither of them did.
No, probably not. Especially Ouija. I mean, again, I don't know what kind of effects it had in it, but
I mean, John Wick, not Ouija, but they destroyed quite a few cars.
oh, and John Wick, yeah.
Yeah, destroyed a lot of stuff, really.
Cars, that's cheap nowadays. You just throw cars around.
I guess. I mean, I don't make movies.
I don't either. Now, we were going to possibly see a double feature. We were going to maybe go see Fury as well, but that didn't happen. But,
Yeah.
Bobby, you saw Fury. Again, I guess, Angela, you don't even know what Fury's about.
No.
Right? You know nothing. But, yeah, you saw Fury, right, Bobby?
I did, and I guess if I can give a quick little synopsis, just so Angela can kind of understand what it is. It's
Actually, I will step away for a moment.
okay.
What?
Well, I'll
just-
explain to the
I'm
rest of the
gonna-
people.
You really
that-
don't? Okay.
I don't want to know. I want to see it blind.
Okay.
I'll be right
Okay.
back.
Okay.
All right.
Cool.
All right. Well,
Okay. Is she gone?
yeah.
Okay. So it's essentially this story about a crew that runs a tank, and they've been going on different assignments, tasked to clear out Nazis in Germany. And in one particular instance, they get in over their heads. And it's essentially about their fight for survival. And what it almost boils down to when it comes to that instance is like 300, where you've got this small band of army or a small band of men going up against this impossible odds. And that's what ends up happening with this crew. They get into a fight, per se, with oncoming Germans. And I have to say, going into it, I had pretty, honestly, I will say I had pretty high expectations for it. And after watching it, I really, really liked that movie a lot. I mean, I'd definitely say I loved it. It was just something about it that was refreshing in a way that I hadn't seen before, because for one, I do tend to like World War II movies or those personal stories as opposed to the bird's eye view of the war, just those Saving Private Ryan, more intimate, this is going on while the main war is going on stories. I like those because it gives you a different perspective of the war and shows you some things that you probably just don't see or they don't talk about. And that's what you get in this movie. You see sometimes where even though our crew, our group of people are in Germany, they don't always behave like exemplary soldiers. They're humans. They're guys. They're battle worn. They're tired. They're worn out. You know, they behave badly in some instances, but yet they're still trying to just fight for their own survival and survival for the person next to them. So what was really intriguing and good about this film was the fact that it does center around this tank, and the name of the tank is Fury, hence the name of the movie. And it's this crew and them using this tank and them showing this tank in combat. And I don't think I've seen any movies where they really show you tank battles or how it goes, that you would operate a tank and the intimacy that's inside that tank. So I just really loved it from that perspective. It was just something about seeing the inner workings of how a tank fight it happens, how it goes down, and the fact that our American tanks were inferior to the German tanks. Those tanks were being better built at that time. And so to see what we were up against and still being able to get the job done is just a testament. And I just thought it was good. And aside from the story and all those other aspects, the acting across the board was great. I mean, I know you have this thing about Brad Pitt, and I wouldn't say this movie would do anything to change that for you, but still, everyone else and him, in my opinion, still did a good job, and they really sell you on their characters, and you don't need to know tons about what they were doing beforehand. You just are in the situation that they're in now, and it's just this sort of slice of their life at this particular point, and you get invested in the characters fairly quickly, and you want to see what happens to them as they progress throughout the film. But it was just definitely a solid movie to me, and I honestly thought maybe it'd be number one again this week, but I guess it probably fell down a little bit because of Ouija and of John Wick.
Yeah, it dropped, but not too much. It came in at number 3.
Okay.
Just behind John Wick. So, I mean, John Wick barely beat it. What I said, John Wick just over 14. Fury had 13. So it's right there. So, yeah, Fury is a David Ayer flick, who we'll be talking about later with some news. But I forget, did you ever see Sabotage?
I did see Sabotage, and I was disappointed in that one because
It's a bummer.
based on the caliber of people that were in that film, I was expecting something to be a lot better than what it was. There's so many good actors in that film that it just didn't live up to its potential to me.
Angela, did you ever see End of Watch?
No.
You should see it. I recommend it. I love that movie.
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's a good movie.
I'm actually going to jump back to John Wick for a second. It reminds me of Game of Thrones. What is that? Red Watch, something like that. That's Skyrim, I think.
Game of Thrones, Skyrim, it's all the
I
same.
think there's castles in both. But no, the Grey Watch, the Grey... Boy, I'm terrible
Greyjoy?
with names. Greyjoy. That's the guy.
Yeah.
That fucking guy. So, I'm going to bounce around a little bit, but I don't know him from anything but Game of Thrones and now John Wick. And for a while, I hated him from Game of Thrones, like everyone does, because he was kind of the worst, and he felt up his sister and stuff, and he was creepy. And then he got pushed into being Greek, and you started to feel for him, and you're like, I didn't like him, but I didn't dislike him this much. I go back on that now. He killed that sweet dog in John Wick, and I hate him now.
Way to do spoilers. No,
Sorry. He's the worst. People need to know,
And they do
I'll be
say
the
it
Rosie
in the
O'Donnell.
trailer.
Yeah, that's in the
it's
trailer.
okay.
It's not a
Is it?
spoiler.
Oh,
Yeah, it's in the
so
trailer.
sad. That hurt me for a while. It was like half an hour before I could get past that and start getting back into the story.
Yeah.
It was pretty brutal.
But see, End of Watch. End of Watch is a good flick. I was pleasantly impressed by
Yeah?
it. Yeah. I mean, I wanted to see it, and
There's
it looked
so
good to me,
many.
because the first time I'd seen anything about it was when Bobby, you and I were at Comic-Con, and they showed some footage in Hall H 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, I guess it was. And I was like, wow, this seems pretty intense. And then I never saw it in the theater, and I finally watched it when it was on Netflix. I'm like, holy shit, this was really good. And yeah, now we know David Ayer is going to direct a new DC film, which we'll get to just a second. But so yeah, I was curious about Sabotage. I couldn't remember. I thought we had talked about it. I know. I haven't seen it, but I couldn't remember how you felt about it.
Yeah. I'd skip it. I mean, if it ever comes on, just check it out just to form your own opinion on it. But it's not really worth seeking out and trying to watch it, in my opinion. But that I did end up watching in the theater, and a lot of it was based on that Comic-Con panel and from what they were showing us. And yeah, it's just knowing that for me, he had that and then this, and now it's like I'm looking forward to what he has coming out next.
But with all that said, we've got some news to talk about. We took last week off, so it's been a couple weeks, and there's been a ton of comic book movie news. We'll jump on the DC side first. So this past week, Warner Brothers CEO, and let's see if I can get this right, Kevin Tsuchihara, told for a meeting of I think shareholders or something like that, finally what the lineup of DC films that's coming out. Now we knew, I think this past August, dates. I think it was August, they came out with a bunch of dates, and they just called them Untitled DC Films. And now we have names. So I guess we can pretty much, based on these, because in the list that came out, they just put years. but I guess we can pretty much figure out what dates they go with based on the previous, release of information. So it looks like that other 2016 film is going to be Suicide Squad, which, as we were just talking about, David Ayer, he'll be directing it. After that, in 2017, a Wonder Woman film starring Gal Gadot, of course, as Wonder Woman. And also in 2017 will be Justice League Part 1, which will be directed by Zack Snyder. It's interesting that they mentioned Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, and Amy Adams reprising their roles. They don't mention Gal Gadot. But obviously she's going to be in it. It's Justice League, right? Come on. Anyway, The Flash will be coming in 2018, Aquaman in 2018, Shazam in 2019, Justice League Part 2 in 2019, also again directed by Zack Snyder. Cyborg starring Ray Fisher in 2020, and then a Green Lantern film also in 2020. Now, I didn't mention, as I ran through those, The Flash. Of course, we have a new show for The Flash in the CW, which, God, what's that kid's name that plays The Flash on there? Barry Allen. I'm blanking on his name. Anyway.
Gustin or something.
Grant something.
Yeah.
Well, this is now sealing the deal that indeed we already knew they weren't going to cross over between TV and film, even though some of us were really hoping, including me. But
you like this kid?
I do, but I just like the idea of, you develop Green Arrow and you develop the Flash on TV, and then you can have them appear like in a Justice League film, and we already know them. And I don't know, I just kind of like that idea.
Yeah.
But that's not what they're doing. So even though we just got a new Flash show, we have now a lot of people are kind of being introduced to the Flash for the first time, and now this is their Flash again, whatever his name is.
Grant Gustin.
Thank you. We now know who the Flash on the big screen is going to be. It's going to be Ezra Miller.
I don't know who that is.
He was in The Perks of Being a Wallflower.
I like that kid.
Yeah. So he's going to be the Flash. And indeed, as we already pretty much knew, Aquaman would be played by Jason Momoa, who, of course, is best known for his role as Khal Drogo in Game of Thrones. Oh. He can finally admit that he's going to be Aquaman. He's been having to keep his mouth shut for a while now.
Aquaman, huh?
Which seems so funny to me, but whatever. So, we've got a list now.
Isn't he kind of stacked? Kind of beefy?
Oh, yeah, he's big.
Is that an Aquaman feature? Admittedly, I don't know very much about the character.
Right, no.
I will say because generally speaking, that's a feature of any comic book superheroes, that they're kind of big. And he's one of those kind of big guys. I mean, in theory, Jason Momoa might be bigger than what they draw him in the comics, but he's still a big kind of guy in the comics as well.
It's not like I would say Flash is normally a thinner dude.
Yeah.
Typically. If Jason Momoa are going to be cast as the Flash, I'd be like, whoa.
Yeah, sure.
That's a bit much. But similar to we've already talked about the Gal Gadot Wonder Woman casting is still I don't know, you think of Wonder Woman, I think you think of someone who's a little more voluptuous than Gal Gadot is. Gal Gadot's got that kind of thin supermodel body.
Oh, yeah.
And, but, hopefully she's still good in it. But anyway, so we got a list now.
Are you happy?
Am I happy? I'm
because
happy.
You've been one of the people most sort of afraid of what DC's doing and their plans, and
I think
for them to now to have something laid out.
I think the thing that makes me the most nervous, though, is that the need for Warner Brothers and DC to we got to do the Marvel thing, and we've got to go ahead right off the bat and list movies through 2020. And we've only made one so far. Man of Steel. That's been it. And there's something about how they're developing this that makes me nervous. They're already going almost all in, even though we're still kind of unsure. I think a lot of people are still unsure about this universe. Again, if we get Batman versus Superman and it ends up not being so great, it just, I know that's a bad sign, but it seems like they're doing this,
I'm going to be extremely amazed if Batman v Superman is anything less than great. I mean, I don't know. I just have a feeling it's just going to be so awesome that people are just, maybe they'll go in with lowered expectations and it'll beat that expectations, but I just feel like it's just going to be great. And so to me, I can't even imagine entering into the equation that it not doing as well as they are thinking it's going to do. And even on that level of, let's say it was not great, or let's put it this way. Let's say if it critically has the same reception as Man of Steel. Even with that being said, the fact that it's Batman versus Superman alone will probably mean it'll be profitable enough to keep going forward with what they're doing and just maybe make tweaks to their creative ideas of what they're going to do moving forward. But financially speaking, I can't imagine it doing bad at all.
No, financially speaking. Again, even like if back to the whole debate when Captain America 3 was originally going to have the same date, I still think, as popular as Captain America is and how insane Marvel movies do, just because this is somewhat new, it would have still won the weekend.
Yeah.
Even though if its total profits for the weekend would have been down because half the people saw Captain America instead. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just based on the content of the movie, it's going to do well.
I actually might be one of those people that'll go in with lower expectations.
Yeah. Well, did you see Man of Steel?
I didn't know. I've seen some other Superman movies in the past, and I tend to really dislike them. I don't know what it is, but they always leave me disappointed. I don't know what it is about Superman.
I'd be curious to get your reaction on Man of Steel. I mean, it's Man of Steel. I don't know.
Is that the one where he gets shot in the eyeball?
No.
It's the other one.
Well, it's very recent. Henry Cavill as Superman.
And then the bullet smushes on his eyeball. That one?
I think that was what? That was the last one, I think, with Brandon Routh, maybe?
Oh, Superman Returns?
Yeah, I think maybe that there was a scene. Maybe. I don't remember it that well because I think I probably only watched that movie a couple times. And so
I recognize my distaste for Superman is probably unjustified, but not a fan. I don't know what it is.
That's the thing. You're not alone in that.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, I think a lot of people just think that Superman is just not as cool as Batman. And so he gets a lot of hate on him. And I don't know that I don't know that it's justified. In fact, I don't believe it's justified. I just think that it's the writers that do him a disservice. And he's actually a lot cooler than, he's made out to be, but they just don't do a good enough job with him because they figure a lot of times that he's so powerful that to really give someone, to put him up against someone that would matter, it would be hard to do. But yet you can do it. I don't know. They just have always been really hesitant with the character and they make it about other things as opposed to making it about what people really want to see in a Superman movie, which is him fighting. Yeah. And then you give it to him in the Man of Steel, and then people still sort of complain because it's too much fighting, which sounds strange, but yeah, that was the issue with that.
So right after this whole list came out, like the rumor stuff and other news immediately started to filter out too. First off with, I guess since it's after Batman vs. Superman, it's the next closest film, Suicide Squad. I guess there's a bunch of outlets that are reporting it looks like sources are saying that Will Smith, Margot Robbie, and Tom Hardy are all fielding offers to be in the movie, including, what's his face, Ryan Gosling. Sorry, what's his face? Nothing against him. But
the guy with the hair,
yeah, Mr. Dreamy, right? So, yeah, it looks like they're going for a pretty big cast in this. It'd be interesting to see Tom Hardy in another DC film as another villain, unless he, have him be Bane again. Though I think we've seen a list, right, of the villains, haven't we?
I don't remember.
I don't remember if that was a very concrete list. Yeah.
Yeah. So
you familiar? I take it you're not familiar with Suicide Squad, are you, Angela?
I am not. No.
Give us a brief rundown, Bobby. You could explain it better than me.
Not much more because they've changed the different people within the group a lot, so I don't know everyone that's within the group. I just know, specifically speaking, Suicide Squad is a group that was put together by Amanda Waller, which is a character in the DC universe, and she works for the government. And the team is all supervillains, and in order for them to get some time off their sentence, because they've all been in prison, they are put out to go do tasks and missions for the government that's sort of like in a co-op way that's just on the down low. So if they do well at the job and complete missions, they'll get some time off their sentence. So they're essentially being forced to be the wet works for the government. And throughout that, obviously, they're still bad. And so they can do things that the heroes wouldn't or couldn't do. And so that's essentially the idea behind Suicide Squad.
Okay.
And in different iterations, they've always equipped them with some sort of thing in their head where it can explode if they decide to go off script and not do what they're being told to do. So there's always some sort of control factor.
Yikes.
Yeah.
I really, really enjoy the comic book movies, the Iron Mans and your Avengers and stuff like that, but I've never read any of the comics for them. And I like comics, but it tends to be
Indie comics, right?
Yeah, like Lock and Key, and I like Walking Dead, and I like, I don't know, different stuff like that. I never got into any of the
capes and tights.
Yeah, and it wasn't for a distaste of it. It's just not something that I ever really fell into. And now looking at it, it seems overwhelmingly too late. Like, I try to look at Batman, and it's been going on for decades, and I don't know what is a good time to jump in. I don't know if I'd have to start at the beginning, and there's all of these different branches and different writers, and it's very overwhelming from the outside looking in. So, like, I'll go and see Guardians of the Galaxy, but I'm being introduced to all these characters for the first time. And, you know, at the end, they show the little clips after the credits of, to me, people, I have no idea who it is. It's like a side view of somebody, and everyone else in the theater's like, oh, dag, that guy's in it. I'm like, I don't know who that fucking guy is. It's someone in space. Okay, yeah, he looks scary, I guess. I don't know if he's a good guy or... Ugh, it sucks, because, like, I'd like to be there and see what's going on, but I don't know what's happening.
I'll say
It's a real
this.
bummer.
Marvel and DC are really good about knowing that when they have a movie coming out, they generally will make it very accessible for
User-friendly,
people,
yeah.
who want to get into their comics.
Yeah.
And so they start maybe a year out in front of the movie coming out.
Yeah.
So before Guardians of the Galaxy came out in the theaters, they had just put out a brand new comic for Guardians of the Galaxy, starting with an issue number 1 and introducing the whole team and everything for people to get into it. And that's when I got into it. And I believe that's when David got into it as well.
Really? A year out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that.
Could have done that.
Yeah, and so they do that because they know that maybe people who find interest in the movies may want to get into the comics, but don't want to be, like you said, sort of weighed down by all the history and the decades of comics that's out there. So even like when you mentioned something like Batman, DC had rebooted their universe not that long ago, and they came out with this New 52, which is all the characters sort of in an updated form. And they started with number 1s again. And so Batman itself is only up to maybe issue 37, 38.
Now,
So
all of the past, I wouldn't necessarily have to get into all of that
no, because
to
they
be able to
sort
really
of
understand where it's all at right now.
They wrote
No,
it. They wrote it in
they-
such a way that like it's not like it was starting fresh with issue 1. Like, we'll use Batman for example. Anyway, it wasn't like the first episode was how did he become Batman.
Yeah.
But it introduces everything in a way that you can. It's right for someone who knows nothing. You'll be fine.
And plus, in the case of DC, when they did their New 52, they essentially said all that stuff that you remember happening years ago, that never happened. This is something completely brand new. Essentially, that's what they did. So they tried to make it fresh from the ground up so that no one had to say, oh, well, I missed all those other issues. How did those things tie into this? Well, it doesn't, because it's completely irrelevant to the series that they have going on now. Those things don't even exist in their eyes. So that's what they've done. And Marvel didn't do that, but they keep continually coming out with number 1s for people to sort of get into it. And one of the most recent cases is, I think within the next month or two, there will be an Ant-Man number 1 coming out. starring Scott Lang, which will be in the movie Ant-Man coming out next year, right? Am I right? That comes out in July or so? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's how they do. That's how they sort of are trying to allow people to get into their comics.
So I guess maybe like the other thing that worries me a little bit is, so I started watching with Christopher Eccleston, the new Doctor Who stuff, and I'd never seen any of the old shows. But I'll meet fans of the show that are like, ooh, you're a new Doctor Who fan? I've been watching it since blah, blah, blah. And it's like, all right, well, I wasn't around then. Like, I can't help it that I was a shitty kid. I've seen the light now, and I'm trying to watch it, so maybe stop being so mean to me.
And it's just too damn much of it. Like,
There's a lot. There's decades and decades of this stuff, and some of it is lost now. I can't watch it anymore. I'm sorry that I wasn't born in the 40s, I guess. Please stop being mean. It's my best advice.
That's the thing. It's
but
like
it's overwhelming.
You'll always get those people, and no matter what the medium is, whether it's comics or TV or film,
Yeah.
there's always going to be those people, or sports.
You've been better than me for longer. I don't know what you want to hear,
Yeah. So you kind of have to just say whatever, because you'll eventually find people that are within the same community as yourself that are just newcomers and are just experiencing it for the first time.
I appreciate the genre, and I think maybe, people like me are helping to, I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Like, I'm part of that wave that's like, okay, well, this used to be almost taboo. Like, you were kind of on the outside. And I'm definitely not the sort of person that was like making fun of people for reading comics. It's just, it was never a part of my life when I was growing up.
Yeah.
I didn't have that,
Right. Just nothing that you even like considered, like, oh, I'm going to try reading comic books.
I wasn't even ignoring them. They just weren't a part of my life.
Right, exactly. I read enough here and there, and then I went away from it, and then I recently kind of picked them all up again after I went to Comic-Con for the first time 3 years ago. And now I'm kind of, trying to fit in reading them. It's my biggest problem. But I do find, I got to say, as much as I enjoy keeping up with, like, the DC stuff, and now I've been reading more and more Marvel, really when it comes down to what books do I really like sitting down with, and I probably look forward to reading the most, it's the indie stuff. Like Revival, which is fantastic. And stuff like that, I find that, I don't know.
Have you read Lock and Key?
I haven't.
That's so good.
No.
It's so crazy good.
Yeah, I hear good things about it.
You should read
Yeah.
it.
And add it to the big stack of stuff.
It's really good.
Look at the bottom drawer here, and it's filled with stuff I haven't read yet.
Yikes.
It's bad. So anyway, with back to Suicide Squad, there was also some news that Deadline reported that they're hearing that Jesse Eisenberg may play Lex Luthor in that film as well, which would be really interesting that you're going to have him as Lex Luthor in 2 movies in the same year within months of each other. I
like it.
You like it? Like, I don't
do.
know. I think there's something weird how you'd be marketing Man of Steel, and you're obviously at that point already going to be somewhat marketing Suicide Squad. And I don't know. There's something about how him being in both seems.
Who is that? Is that Facebook guy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Lex Luthor, huh?
Yeah. Lex
That's
Luthor.
weird.
See,
That's a weird choice.
I mean, I can't speak for how well of a Lex Luthor he'll be. That aside, the idea of Lex Luthor, the character, being in Suicide Squad and within the short amount of time of being in that and the other movie, that doesn't bother me. And in fact, the reason why I think I like it is the fact that there's that connective tissue between them, and it also probably means something that is an underlying enemy that they're building up in Lex Luthor in terms of, I don't know what his deal would be within the Suicide Squad if he gets captured and he's put in on the team. But I don't know, just having that mastermind, that brain, in that movie, I think will up the ability of the team and up the ante of people wanting to go see a movie they've never heard of if the other movie happens to be good and he happens to be good in it. So then maybe people who weren't going to go see Suicide Squad before, then maybe they'll go see it then.
Right.
He was in Zombieland, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that kid.
I don't know. It's just like, I mean, I guess we know like he's not going to die at the end of Batman versus Superman.
No,
But there's still something about like, you know, knowing however he's going to be involved with Suicide Squad. I feel like it's somewhat spoiler like to know that before you've even seen Batman vs Superman. You know what I mean? But I guess I don't know.
I guess I get. I mean, I get what you're saying on that level, but I think that's for me still the part that is non-spoilerish is not knowing what he will be doing on the Suicide Squad. For all we know, he may be going up against Amanda Waller and trying to wrestle control of the Suicide Squad to get them freed and on his side, using them and whatever kind of plans he may have. So I don't know. I mean, it's just not knowing still is enough to still keep me unspoiled from anything just by mentioning him possibly being in the film.
Right. Now, the rumor I got to say I'm most excited about, and we've talked about this a little bit, Bobby, but Jenna Malone, it is, I guess now it's kind of been confirmed, at least according to the Hollywood Reporter. They're saying
Spoilers.
Spoilers?
Yeah,
I guess so.
Maybe people might not want to know this part, so you might want to tune out
Angela,
for a few minutes.
You want to hear it. It's fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess
sure?
maybe you don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is going to be referencing The Dark Knight Returns, which is a book by Frank Miller that is obviously being a big inspiration to this Batman vs Superman movie. And anyone who knows that comic,
Frank Miller's Sin City, yeah?
Yep, same guy.
Oh, that'd be a good place for you to start with your Batman if you wanted to get into that character.
Read that. I've got it
in
here somewhere. You should read it. But in that book, Batman is older. He's semi-retired. Robin is, Dick Grayson Robin is long gone. I guess he's already Nightwing or whatever. You don't ever see him in the book, I don't think. But in the book, a girl ends up kind of taking the place of Robin and becomes Robin. So he has a female Robin. And that's the rumor going around, is that apparently, according to the Hollywood Reporter, they have multiple sources confirming she is in Batman vs. Superman. She recently Instagrammed a photo of herself with red hair, which some people are saying seems to indicate, hey, maybe she's Robin. Like, obviously, they're doing the Dark Knight Returns thing with this movie. Maybe they're doing the female Robin thing. Again, we don't know the details of this movie for sure, but from what we're gathering, apparently Ben Affleck's Batman is older. And kind of like Dark Knight Returns, he's semi-retired. One rumor that came out a while back, which part of it seems right and part of it's like, what the fuck? But, is that, in the Batcave, you'll see like a tattered Robin costume. Who knows if that's true? But that would go along the lines of, okay, so he's had a Robin in the past, but he's probably gone. Dick Grayson, he's probably Nightwing now. He's probably somewhere else. And I could see that in this movie, Jenna Malone ends up becoming his new sidekick, his new Robin.
Who's directed this?
Zack Snyder is directing this. Who directed Man of Steel. He'll be directing the two Justice League movies.
He directed 300 and The Watchmen and Sucker Punch.
Okay.
Anyway, I dig this idea. Like, I like the idea of doing the female Robin thing. It makes sense to me based on the news we've heard. To me, it's like they've got to do this now. Like, I hope if they don't, I'll be really bummed. But I don't know. The little bit we talked about, Bobby, you seem skeptical. Like, you don't believe this is actually going to happen.
It's not that I don't believe it's going to happen. There's just on the surface of it, it's cool. I mean, make no mistake. I think that if it happens, it's pretty badass. But where my hesitation comes is that this was part of the things that we saw that was rumored from a while back, where they mentioned the idea that this Batman had been operating for a lot of years in the shadows, and that he's supposedly no one's even had a photograph of the guy. And to me, it's like, well, how could he have gone through two Robins and not have been photographed, or people not know who he is, or them just being so unaware of this character? So that's where a lot of my trepidation comes in. And beyond that, I've said it on the show quite a few different times, is that in the DC universe, the Wally West version of Flash and Dick Grayson as Nightwing are my two favorite DC characters. So I would like to see a Nightwing or Dick Grayson as a Robin before I would want to see someone else completely taking on that character. So it's just sort of a bum out if that would be true from my perspective. Not that it has any bearing on the film other than what I initially said in terms of if he's supposed to be so covert, that how could he have had all these Robins and how many years could he have been doing this to have had two of them and not be seen and all that, just the logistics of it. But on the surface of it, I mean, it's pretty cool, and it would turn out to be really even that much more closer to being The Dark Knight Returns if they did incorporate that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
When JGL found the cave, right? What's his face? Let him do it with the coordinates, right? Has anything happened in that storyline since then? That maybe I've missed?
No, that's over. Well, like the Dark Knight trilogy, they ended there.
Yeah.
And this when Man of Steel came out next, which was the next DC movie to come out after The Dark Knight Returns, this is kind of like the beginning of a new like DC universe.
So that's all done now?
So that's all done.
Oh, that's a real bummer. Yeah. I like that guy. Justin Gordon-Levitt's not going to be, though he will be, it sounds like, in a DC, kind of a DC film. Sandman.
Vertigo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a Vertigo comic. But, which isn't on this list, but, you know.
That's why they said it's not on the list.
It's not on the list because it's really a Vertigo
DC
comic.
Film. Yeah.
Not really a DC, not going to be in this universe. It'll kind of be its own thing. But anyway, that trilogy is kind of separate from all of this news. Oh. Sorry to bum you out there.
Yeah, I really like that guy.
I don't know. Yeah.
You can watch him next in, I think it's the movie adaptation of Man on a Wire.
Really?
Well, you may not know that. Oh, do you know what that is then?
I do know what that is, yeah.
Okay. Well,
I like film a lot. I just, rarely get to see it.
Yeah.
Or ever know anything about it. But I really like it. Yeah, I do know what Man on a Wire is.
Yeah, he'll be in that, so you can see him in that.
Nice. So what do you think, Bobby, about the Ezra Miller casting? I haven't really had a chance to ask you that.
I don't know, to be honest. I can't really make an informed decision because I haven't seen him in Perks of Being a Wallflower.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
Yeah, I don't have a frame of reference. Other than when I see his pictures, to me, in my head, it doesn't match up to what I would think the Flash should look like.
Right.
So that's all I can base it on. Other than that, I mean, I've heard people say he's a good actor and that he should be able to pull it off. And so I just have my fingers crossed in that perspective because I love the character of Flash so much. So I just want to see him do it right. And as far as the look, I'm sure that can be changed and worked around, or I'll just buy into however way he looks as long as the film is good. But just on the surface of it, I don't have enough to go on to say whether I like it or not.
Let me see his picture.
Ezra Miller? All right.
Emma Watson's in that, right?
Perks of Being a Wallflower, yeah.
Yeah.
They're a really good movie. I was really impressed with that one.
It's very good.
I'll have to try and catch that sometime soon.
There's a collage of Ezra Miller photos for you. A little Google image search.
He looks like Zach Braff from over here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, I'm not as familiar with The Flash or Barry Allen. I never really read The Flash as a kid, so I get what he looks like. I've seen, I know what he looks like. So,
yeah.
But not knowing him as well, hearing Ezra Miller as The Flash, I'm like, okay, that's cool. I mean,
well, they never even said if he's playing Barry Allen or what. I mean, I assume, but
I thought, on the lists I've seen, but I swear somewhere I saw it was indeed a Barry Allen, but maybe that wasn't an official word. I don't know. Because I was curious about that, and I think when this news first came out and the Ezra Miller thing first came out, I was like, well, so what, do we know it's Barry Allen or not? And I want to say the first thing I saw was like, oh yeah, Barry Allen. I'm like, but again, maybe that wasn't like official confirmed news. Maybe whoever I read that from didn't know what they were talking about. A distinct possibility.
It is.
And if they didn't, that would make more sense to me.
Yeah.
Just avoid Barry Allen and let him have his own show.
Maybe.
And that's what I was kind of assuming they were going to do. Like, okay, so you just introduced Barry Allen in The Flash on TV, and now you're going to... I mean, I get that how many years is it away? Though
Right,
I guess, he'll probably be in Justice League.
Yeah.
You would think.
You would think.
But yeah, like, to just introduce him and then introduce him again with a new actor on film, and it's just...
Do you think that's like a scheduling thing? Like, just probably filming both is too much, or...
No, I don't think that's it. I just think
Maybe
they
they
kind of want to
avoid-
keep things separate. DC, unlike Marvel, like they're kind of all over the place in TV, and they've got now 2 shows on the CW. They've got
I just learned about them today.
Yeah, I was watching Arrow today, and
Okay.
she saw that I was watching it, and
Yeah. I do not have TV.
so what's this?
Yeah.
They've got Constantine now on NBC.
I mean, it's like Netflix is the only thing I ever
They've got
get to see stuff
a
on.
Teen Titans show
Okay.
apparently coming on TNT.
Isn't that old, the cartoon?
Well, yeah, there's been...
This is
Teen
different?
Titans. Yeah, this would be called Titans, apparently. But it'd be a Nightwing kind of show.
Is it still a cartoon, or...
No, this would be
Live action.
live action.
Huh.
Based on the comics.
Yeah.
Okay.
What? Obviously, I'm missing a show. What am I missing? There's a fourth of...
Supergirl?
Oh, yeah, there's Supergirl coming. So they're kind of all over the place. And, you're on different networks and, different... I think, different producers here and there. So to kind of, they're not going to go out of their way to make it this whole one cohesive universe. They're like, we're going to let DC TV do their thing, and then the directors of the films can not feel like they're beholden to TV, and vice versa. TV is going to do their own thing, or film's going to do their own thing. So yeah, that's probably more the reason they're not going to do. We're going to have this kid that's now in the Flash be the Flash in the films, and same with Stephen Amell, who plays Green Arrow on Arrow. We won't see him on TV or on the films. So
Yeah.
I'm still kind of bummed about it because I like those shows, and I don't know, it bums me out. Oh,
Yeah,
well.
for me, I don't know. It doesn't bother me because because I've always known that that's the road they were going to take, and so I've always been sort of fine with it, and it's been that way
Yeah.
all the time. They had Smallville on the air, and they still were going forward with their Superman Returns, and that was with Brandon Routh. So it's not like it's uncommon for them to sort of keep those worlds separate. And I get it, I understand it, and I'm sure most people will understand it as well, because I think they tend to think that people aren't going to be savvy enough to understand that, hey, this is just for TV and this is for movies, but it's not that hard of a concept to grasp that it did just different things.
I will say, though, when the Ezra Miller news came out and perusing the internet, some of the other websites that I would come across that weren't really like film news sites, more like, I'll read some like tech news and stuff like that. Sites that would also occasionally, throw up news about other things or whatever, like pop culture stuff. And I was seeing like some rumblings here and there, like postings of people being like, so wait, I'm confused. Why is this guy going to be the Flash when we've already got this guy? I think there is a little bit of that already. But overall, I think people are, will figure it out. But yeah, I don't know. Still bums me out, but I'm not like so bummed out that I'm like frustrated. I get it and I understand it, but I just I was hoping, even though I knew it wasn't going to happen, I still had my fingers crossed. But anyway, there was also some pretty big Marvel news, which I guess is like 2 weeks old now. I feel like I almost forgot about it because we took last week off. The Captain America 3 news. And Bobby, you could probably just cover this better than me, but essentially, it sounds like Robert Downey Jr. is in talks to appear in an added film, because right now we know that he's contracted to appear in, well, he's already filmed Age of Ultron, which is coming out. And he will be most likely, we're assuming, appearing in the Avengers 3 film, but that would be it. he wasn't contracted to do any other films. So for him to be added to something else, either an Iron Man 4 or Captain America 3, it would have to be a new negotiation. And apparently that's what's happening. He is in talks to appear in Captain America 3. And yeah, I don't know. What's the story arc apparently this will cover?
Apparently, if everything is to be taken at face value based off the rumors, it seems like they would be going towards a civil war from the comics, which was, it boiled down to hero versus hero, because an incident happened in which a small town or city got destroyed by superheroes chasing after a villain, and the villain sort of detonated this himself, because that's sort of his ability to sort of go nuclear, and it killed all these people, innocent people. So the government says, all right, that's it. We're not having any more of this. We want everyone who wears a costume to be registered. We want to know who their civilian identities are so they can be held accountable for the things that they do. And there's two lines of reasoning. And Iron Man fell down one side of it, saying, you know what, you're right. There needs to be a level of accountability for our actions. So I will lead and spearhead this whole mission to get the heroes registered. And then, on the other side of that was Captain America saying, no, that violates our basic rights. And we don't believe that that's going to be able to lead to anything good by knowing our identities. You put the people that we love at risk. You do other things that give villains upper hand. And I don't believe that that's the way to go. So essentially, you fall within those two lines, and anyone that fell between those two lines would be on that side. And so you end up having some heroes on Cap's side and some heroes on Iron Man's side. And there'd be different times throughout that comic series where they fought, and I can't say the word. Ideology. Thank you.
Welcome.
Behind it. And so there was a lot of that going on back and forth. And one of the characters that's sort of central to that storyline, he sort of plays like the audience, because he's sort of split in the middle between which side he should be on, is Spider-Man. And so one of the other stories that came out was that...
Sorry, it's a really fantastic idea.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed this.
It is. But the problem is, in like what tends to happen in event comics a lot of times, is that they try and stretch a story out further than it should go. And so it kind of loses its own self within itself, because it becomes too convoluted or too heavy, and the initial principle of what they were going for kind of gets lost. So the execution of Civil War in the comics didn't quite live up to the idea of it. But one of the other characters being involved was Spider-Man, and lately there was this other news story that came out that Marvel is trying to talk to Sony in an idea of trying to use Spider-Man for that movie, this Civil War kind of Secret Wars movie. And we don't know how that's going at this point, but just on the initial idea of what Cap 3 is supposed to be about, it's supposed to be sort of setting that stage for this Civil War to happen.
Huh.
But we should keep in mind that there's been no official confirmation of the story arc. Though
Yeah.
I guess a ton of sources apparently are saying that's what's going to happen, and it seems like it's pretty certain, but we don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I find it interesting because just from a comic book movie perspective, it somewhat feels like, if indeed this is where they go, somewhat of a reaction to what DC's doing with Batman versus Superman.
And you know what? I would maybe say that's true if it wasn't for the fact that in some of the other stories I've read, they've already had this sort of idea for quite a while now.
Right.
Because you got to figure the way Marvel plays their hand is they're thinking so many far movies out. And if you read some of these other stories, that reasoning is also why Edgar Wright is no longer doing Ant-Man, is because they were already trying to weave things that they're going to do in some of the other movies into this movie. And if you even remember, I don't know if you remember this, David, but when we saw the Ant-Man footage at Comic-Con, do you remember
This past the new footage that we just saw?
Yeah. Do you remember there being like this voiceover from Michael Douglas, and he's like, he's talking about how he hates costumed heroes or whatever. They're all weirdos, or he calls them something. So it's like even then they're layering in things to where you could say, okay, well, Michael Douglas, his Ant-Man would probably fall on the side of like Tony Stark. He thinks that they should be their identity should be out there. Who knows where Scott Lang would fall, but there's that idea that's out there. So they didn't just reactionary response to what DC's doing. They've just had these things already sort of layered and planned out. And beyond that Civil War movie, they're already saying that there's some other movie, some other big unknown movie that everyone will be a part of. So that's why they were saying in the Avengers 3, they would sit out some of the characters that we've seen in the past that wouldn't be in that movie because they're going to save them for this other big thing.
Right. All right. Yeah. I guess I never thought about how far they probably had it planned out. But. So what did you think of the Age of Ultron trailer? I mean, we pretty much had seen it. To recap, it was going to come out next week during Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., right? Or this coming week.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I guess it got leaked early, and then Marvel just immediately was like, okay, and they just officially released it. Mm-hmm. Angela, you watched it for the first time today. Yeah. So you've seen this. But yeah, it's pretty much what we saw at Comic-Con minus this scene while they're all lounging around, which you see a glimpse of it in the trailer while, when, Ultron walked in on that kind of hangout meeting. But yeah, Comic-Con, we saw that scene, and then it led into essentially what the trailer is, except now the trailer has some added footage to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you think about the revisiting of the Ultron trailer, Bobby?
It was just awesome.
How many times have you watched it?
Yeah, that's one of those things. If you talk to people, it's not if you've seen it, it's how many times have you seen it. And I'd say I probably watched it a good, 8 or 9 times. I even went, and to me, that's honestly, even though it sounds like a lot, that's nothing compared to what I've been seeing online of how many times the people have been watching that trailer. But one of the things I did do, which I really liked doing, was I looked on YouTube, and there was people who had breakdowns of the trailer, and that just shows you how much people anticipate a film, that they're breaking down a trailer for the movie, and it's not even the movie. And so they're looking at little small pieces and saying, oh, this could mean this and this could mean that. And so that was interesting to see that, because when we saw it at Comic-Con, it was so quick, and I don't even remember if they showed it twice.
No, they didn't. And I remember specifically like, oh, wow, because that's so common in Hall H. Mm-hmm. Whenever they show something, they almost always give you a second look.
Yeah.
And when they showed us this trailer, that was it.
And that's probably why it didn't leak out, because they only showed it that one time.
Yeah.
So,
and I can't remember, did the Comic-Con footage have the final shot you see in the trailer of Ultron when he says that final line about "there are no strings on me"?
I don't remember
that.
So that was Ultron?
Yeah, that's Ultron.
Cool.
And
this is what I'm talking about. Like, I watched it with you, and I deduced that it was supposed to be Ultron, but I had no idea.
Right.
Ugh.
Yeah, and you wouldn't necessarily, because they don't name him in
No, I guess they don't.
Trailer. No, they don't.
So, as someone who knows nothing other than the movies you've seen already,
yeah,
you've seen pretty much all the Marvel films.
I've seen a lot of them. Yeah, I don't think I assume I haven't seen all of them.
You've seen Guardians of the Galaxy. You told me 3 times.
3 times, yeah. Really enjoyed it.
But so you're familiar, not an expert with the movies, but so. From your perspective, did you see that trailer and go, "Oh my god, I can't wait"? Or
yeah, I mean it kind of happens with all of them. Every time I start to hear news about them, I get really excited. And like with Guardians of the Galaxy, I think I happened to catch maybe one of the trailers at a bar. Like I was sitting at a bar and I saw it on TV or something, and mostly I saw Rocket, and I was like, oh, that looks like a comic book movie. I can't wait to see it. Like I can't even tell you if it looks good or not. Just it looks like they didn't do a shitty job with the graphics, then I would like to see it, because the trailers that I'm able to see are like no sound, just a TV somewhere. Watching this, there was a guy that looked like he was the Hulk in an Iron Man suit, and then the guy that said there's no strings on me. I don't know a lot of these characters. It looks action-packed. I'm excited to see it, but I don't know what is going on.
But you saw it, and you're excited.
I'm excited to see it for sure. I don't know a lot of what's happening.
Right.
Don't know most of the characters.
I only know anything about Ultron based on what this guy tells me.
I haven't seen the Captain America movies. I have not.
You haven't seen any of them?
No.
Oh, really?
No.
Wow, Winter Soldier.
Oh, no. Those are some good ones to see. Oh, yes. I mean, to me, I like the Captain America series more than the Thor series.
I have not seen the Thor series.
Have you seen a Marvel film?
She's probably seen Avengers and Guardians. That's it.
And some Iron Man. I saw some Iron Man.
Okay.
I remember you saw the first Iron Man before I did, because I remember you bringing it up at some point. Like, oh yeah, that's really good. You got to see that, because I don't think I saw Iron Man until I saw it on like DVD back when that came out. Yeah.
It is.
What year was that?
How long
has
tough.
it been now?
It's tough for me to get to theaters, so unless it kind of lines up, it's fairly rare. I went pretty far to see the Guardians of the Galaxy, but I got to see it in the Alamo Draft House. Which was,
yeah, she's been rubbing that in all weekend.
Oh man, it was fucking great.
Wow.
That was a good one. I saw it 3 times in that theater. So good.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I know that for me, and I don't know if you knew this, because this is probably actually a good time to mention it too, is that since that trailer did leak, immediately when I saw that it leaked, I was saying, oh, the crap, that kind of sucks for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because it could help with some viewership if that was to be attached to it. And so initially I thought to myself, what Marvel should do is recut the trailer and add some more footage and say, hey, look, well, you already saw the leaked one, and so now check out this one. And sure enough, there's people smart enough to figure that out, and that's what they're going to do. They are, adding more, they're adding more footage to what you've already seen, so that it'll be still attached to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. this week, and you'll see some new stuff that you didn't see in this trailer.
But see, the thing is, and I mean, at least when the plan originally was, okay, it's going to come out during Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., at least the stuff I was reading was saying that indeed it was going to be online almost immediately. Now, I wonder if that means, like with this new recut version, is the new recut version only going to be on TV or not?
I'm sure it'll show up after the episode airs, or, probably on the West Coast, we'll probably get to see it a little bit earlier before the show airs, because it'll probably maybe get put online after the East Coast version goes off. But yeah, I mean, I think it's smart for them, and the week after that.
Yeah, if you want to boost some Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. viewership, though, I wouldn't bother. Like, because that's how I look. I'm, from my perspective, I don't watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., at least not right now. I haven't been watching it. If I knew I could only see that version of the trailer during that broadcast, I'd record it and watch it.
That still counts as a rating.
Yeah, but if I know it's going to be online almost immediately or afterwards the next day, I'm not going to bother.
But not everyone will know that. Yeah. So,
I think a lot of people, though, do.
I think only people plugged in that will know that. I think there's still a decent amount of people that might hear it might just be on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and not know that it'll get released online the next day or whatever, that will say, okay, I want to check it out.
Now, I would think even it not being officially released online, you could still immediately find it online. So even if...
That's only if...
I wouldn't hear anything about it on TV. I would just look for it online.
I think you would only see it online immediately if Marvel released it immediately, or 2, if someone records it off of their TV and then shows it online. But then you're not seeing the great quality. Like even the one when it initially got leaked, it wasn't great quality. And while you get to see it, it makes a world of difference when you get to see it when Marvel released the official
properly
HD
done.
version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I woke up the morning after I guess it got leaked, and to look at my cell phone and see this ton of text back and forth between you, Bobby, and Yasha talking about this trailer for these guys on the West Coast. it was. I guess I don't know what time that must have all went down. But
I think it was around 5 o'clock.
It must have been
6.
late enough that by the time it was really getting out, or by the time you guys texted, I was asleep. So I mean, I go to bed early on the East Coast. So when I'm going to bed, what time was it? Probably on the West Coast then. It's early. It's early.
It's 4
6
hours
or 7.
Yeah, it's
Anyway.
3 hours back. So
Yeah.
whatever time you went to bed is 3 hours before that.
But yeah, I woke up to like, holy shit, what's happening? Like, oh my God, I have all these texts. What's going on? Okay, trailer.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting because for a minute it was like, okay, the news had came out about Cap 3 and Robert Downey Jr. the possibility of him being in that film. Then the next day, DC's like, blam, here we go. Here's our whole lineup for the next, 10 years, 6 years, whatever it is. And you're like, okay, now we know all these movies, and that was the line of discussion. Then next thing you know, Marvel says, okay, we've got Age of Ultron trailer playing with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And then it leaks out early online. And then so it's like, your move, DC. What are you gonna do now? And maybe they'll say, okay, well, we're gonna show a teaser for Batman v Superman attached to Interstellar, or I don't know, whatever, something that's Warner Brothers that has coming out at some point, maybe The Hobbit or something. And then that would be their moves, So it's like, it's interesting to see this game that they're playing back and forth as well.
I wonder when we'll first see anything from Ant-Man, which is an interesting situation given how late it started filming.
Yeah.
I mean, that movie comes out in July.
Well,
and
I was going to say, the week after S.H.I.E.L.D., I think it may be a week that they're taking off after that, because Marvel has this 75-year anniversary thing coming on. And they already said that they're going to show even more Age of Ultron footage in that they haven't shown yet. So maybe they could squeeze some Ant-Man stuff in there within their documentary thing talking about Marvel. Maybe it might show up there. If not there, then I would say you probably are looking at something towards the end of the year, because obviously coming out next year, they want to get the word out a little bit early.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys have anything else before we get out of here?
I do.
Okay.
I want to ask you and Angela, okay, what do these things have in common? I'll just read you off a list. Uncle Buck, Rush Hour, Bachelor Party, Big, Marley and Me, The Courtship of Eddie's Father, The Illusionist, Resident Evil, and Underworld.
I'm going to go with a guess.
Okay.
I'm going to guess that these are all things that are getting their own TV versions.
Ding, 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 ding.
Wow, truly?
I
Yes.
guessed that based off of I knew about. Well, I think I'd heard about Underworld. I'd heard about. God, now I'm already forgetting half the list you just read.
Sorry, Uncle Buck is getting a TV show. Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
So,
Sorry, I should have let you throw a couple guesses out there, Angela, before I said
there would have
anything.
been zero. I would have had zero. There was Uncle Buck and Resident Evil in the same list. I would have had zero guesses.
So, from what you've heard, David, how do you feel about these movies being turned into TV shows?
Can you read it again?
Sure.
Read it one more time.
Okay, yeah, we got Uncle Buck, Rush Hour, Bachelor Party,
Shower.
Big.
Wow.
Marley and Me,
Big was
The
the one.
Courtship of Eddie's Father,
Okay,
The Illusionist, Resident Evil.
Oh, and the Illusionist is the other one I'd heard about. That's right.
Yeah.
Illusionist, actually, I would be pretty excited about. Marley and Me, this is spoiler alert for everybody. The dog dies at the end.
Yeah.
What?
I think it's supposed to be a prequel TV series.
Because they got the dog at the start of the show, or the start of the movie. And the dog died at the end. Like, that's the whole dog's life.
Yeah. So it'd be something.
It's just a TV version of the movie,
Yeah.
You know,
but
essentially.
Like about a boy.
kind of.
Yeah.
Probably.
kinda.
Isn't that pretty bad, though?
I haven't.
I've seen like one episode. Minnie Driver's in it, right?
Yeah.
I don't remember it being very good.
I hear it's pretty
really
good.
liked
I think
the
it's pretty
movie.
popular.
Yeah?
And I love the movie. I haven't seen the show, but I from what I hear,
I saw the pilot. I did not enjoy it.
pilots are you always got to go at least one episode past the pilot.
I get that.
Definitely. Yeah.
I do. I get that.
Pilots they're funky.
I really liked the movie. You know, Hugh Grant's in it.
Hugh Grant's in it.
He's got that face. But
Are there any you would be willing to watch?
Of that
The
list.
Illusionist.
Yeah,
for
that
sure.
I would agree with The Illusionist.
The Illusionist for sure.
That was a movie I feel like I liked more than most people because I know it came out around the same time as The Prestige.
The Prestige,
And The
yeah.
Prestige definitely a great movie. Got a lot more acclaim than The Illusionist did. But yeah, that one.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, I might be mixing the two up. Okay, so
So you're
Prestige
thinking
and
of The
Illusion.
Prestige.
So there was twins in one of them, right?
Prestige,
The
I believe.
Prestige.
And Ed Norton was in one.
The
I think that's The Illusionist. Yeah.
And Jessica Biel. Her, right? Jessica, Jennifer. I always get her.
I think I
Jessica.
liked the one without the twins.
The
Is that
Illusionist.
right?
That's The
Wait,
Illusion.
which was Wolverine?
Paul
in one of them?
Giamatti was in it.
That's the Prestige.
You know, I can't remember. I liked one of them a lot. I remember,
They're
but
all one film.
they came out together, and I saw them both around the same time. Both about magic. I liked one of them a lot.
Now you're going to have to go back and watch.
Most
I'll just
people,
watch 'em again.
If you only liked one a lot, most people fall in the Prestige camp.
I remember
I liked
thinking
both,
one
but-
was not nearly as good as the other.
Yeah, again, most people would say The Illusionist was nowhere near as good as Prestige.
Did you? Ed Norton was an illusionist.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's the one that wasn't very good. And I really like him.
Again, and I agree that Prestige is better.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed The Illusionist. In fact, I think it's on that DVD rack over there somewhere. Oh, yeah, I see it.
This is now an argument that David and I have gotten into a lot over the years. I'd say is the "There Will Be Blood" and "No Country for Old Men" argument.
What
Now
argument is this?
You don't remember this? We used to fight about this fairly often because
Like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang?
you like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang is a good movie. You know, I don't know what's wrong with you.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you didn't like that.
I
believe
need to see it
that?
again. I will admit, unlike you and
You
Looper,
do need to see it because
unlike if I'll
Kiss
watch it
Kiss
again and
Bang
watch
Bang
Looper again.
is no Looper. I don't know what you want to hear. It's
You watch Looper again? I'll watch Kiss Kiss Bang Bang again.
it'll literally never happen.
And it's never going to happen.
It's fine.
Anyway, I
No, it's too.
took you off track.
My head is screaming about Looper now. My brain is on fire. You did this.
I want please. I want to remember the debate we've had about There Will Be Blood and
Oh, nothing. It was, and I see.
No Country for Old Men. That's
Yeah, I see how this is on me. You know, this argument was my bad. But while they are nothing alike, they came out around the same time. Not that there's nothing alike about them, but they're definitely different stories.
Oh yeah, they're different movies.
Completely different. Not like the Armageddon, other
Deep Impact.
Deep Impact. I was going to say Deep Blue Sea. Those two movies are nothing alike. But you said at some point that you liked There Will Be Blood, a movie that I was not crazy about.
I did.
Yes.
Okay, go on.
Am I going crazy now?
I liked it. I remember not liking it. I think as much as I expected because if I remember right, it was getting kind of a lot of hype and acclaim.
Yeah.
A lot.
And,
Yeah,
I mean, I liked it, but I
I
don't
was
think
not crazy about it. And I said, like, oh no, I liked No Country for Old Men better. And you were like, okay, well, they're not related, so it's not important.
That's interesting because I mean,
You don't remember this at all?
now looking back, I would definitely agree that No Country for Old Men is
Maybe
better.
you were just arguing to argue.
I probably was. We do
Yeah.
that a lot.
Wow.
But
Wow.
yeah, no.
I always turn out right in the end. I think
Really?
this argument in particular proves it.
Really?
This was heated for a long time. I'm really surprised you don't remember this.
No, because I
Like, you weren't even in it. You were just arguing to argue. You didn't even care.
I guess I was.
Wow.
I don't remember. Are you sure it
Wow.
was me?
Yeah, I'm very sure. No one else in my life to talk to me with. How about
Yeah,
that?
she got me to watch Kiss Kiss Bang Bang one night, and
You were so shitty about it. Like, I guess it's okay.
something about it I just did not dig.
I grew up in that
Wow.
world of Hollywood fame and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, please.
Yeah,
Yeah, that was what I said.
it was just like that.
I know Hollywood, and this is not Hollywood. Yeah,
I've
that
seen
was
this
totally
type of
me.
movie so many times.
Anyway,
So
Elitist.
good. It's a good movie, though, right?
Yeah, it's a really good movie.
It's
I
a
think
really
that to
good
me,
movie.
honestly, to me, that was the movie that helped spark Robert Downey Jr. back
Agreed.
into the.
I
world.
agree.
hey, I fully admit I will watch it again. But now I'm not going to if you don't watch Looper. So
Then neither of us are ever going to see these movies again.
too bad. That's fine. I've got plenty of other things I need to watch.
I know what
So,
Looper's
me
like.
never seeing Kiss, Kiss, Bang,
and the
Bang
only
again.
me and 7% of this country are the only ones that aren't crazy. We know what Looper was truly like. Terrible.
Please.
We've got our head on straight.
Are you excited about any of those shows, Bobby?
You know what? Honestly, it's so weird because on the surface it just sounds like why, but at the same time, I know because I like some of the movies, I would at least be interested in seeing where they're trying to go with the show. So I would give a look to Rush Hour. I would give a look to Resident Evil and Underworld, and probably even Big.
Oh yeah, Big. Oh, I don't know.
Big. Wow. This is a fun fact. The first and only movie that I've ever walked out of in my life was Underworld.
Really, that's your movie.
That's my movie, yeah. I made it
feel
about
we've had
half an
to-
hour in.
Brought that up at some point. Have you ever walked out of a movie, Bobby?
No, I've come close, but I
only did
never have
once.
actually gotten up and left.
I only
Really?
did once, and I would have done it again had it not been for this podcast. I would have walked out of movie 43.
I actually remember you saying that.
And I'm not kidding. I would have left, but I stuck through it because we were reviewing it.
You're a champion.
And I'm like, all right, I'm going to watch this whole thing. But God, did I want to leave. Anyway, the one movie I walked out of was The Thin Red Line.
Really?
Oh wow!
That's
yeah,
weird.
at the time, again, that's another movie I, for a long time, have been meaning to watch again.
Yeah, you
And
really should.
Aaron Cosman, who's been on the show a few times, that's one of our big debates. He likes that movie a lot. I've always talked shit about it. I just remember at the time.
Just
it's-
knowing you, I'd say that I don't know what place you were in, but it
was
that
a different
opinion is very unjustified.
It was a different place. I was in college. I don't know. I was in a very different place
Got
then.
beat up a lot that day. You were just in a sour mood.
And I just remember me and my girlfriend at the time, 45 minutes in, I could tell we were both just like, oh my God, this is dragging like hell. And remember, it's a Terrence Malick film.
Yeah.
You know, you've seen any other Terrence Malick films. They are very hit or miss.
Yeah.
For me. My experience has been, there's been some I love and then others that I'm like that one. I was just like, oh, I can't do this. I
think you should check it out.
I feel like a
again.
Terrence Malick film is like you've got to be in that mood.
Yeah.
And I think and I'm going to guess a lot of people probably went in thinking they were seeing a more typical war film. And it's not.
No.
No, not at all. So I guess that day I was not in it and I left. I actually got my money back. I didn't know you could do that at the time. I remember we were walking out of the theater and my girlfriend was like, well, why don't we try to get our money back? And I'm like, well, it's not their fault that it sucks.
Yeah.
I'm like, it's just my opinion. Why would they give me my money back? She's like, well, let's try. And we went up to the desk. They're like, yep. I'm like, wow. Because I think there's a certain, you worked at a movie theater, Bobby, but
Yeah,
I guess, is there a
Yeah.
certain point in the time of the movie when they won't do it, is my
yeah,
understanding?
there is.
Okay.
Usually, like if you get like 3/4 of a way through there, after that they probably won't give it back to you. But if you've gotten less than half, or maybe just about half, you can still come back out and say, you know what, this isn't what I was hoping for or expecting. Can I get my money back? Or sometimes, I mean, obviously they'd like to keep the money and just give you a pass, but sometimes they'll just give you a refund if you really, really want it.
I know I didn't have to fight. I was just like, hey,
No.
we just
I
didn't
didn't
like the
even ask.
movie and we're going to, leave. Can we get our money back? They're like, sure. I'm like, really? Wow. Okay, cool.
I didn't even
Yeah.
ask with Wonderworld. Oh man.
Walked out of Underworld. I've never seen any of those movies.
I was infuriated. It was about the same thing, like 20, 30 minutes in. I felt like I've been there for days. I was like, I gotta get the fuck out of here. This is terrible.
I'd say the only movie that, well, there's probably been maybe a couple, but the most recent one that I can remember thinking I wouldn't have mind walking out of was Sabotage that we talked about.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Speaking of which, yeah, that was one of those things where I was going into it expecting this one thing, and it starts to unfold, and you're like, oh, this is not good. And it wasn't. I think it was more the script than it was the actors, but.
Sorry, you said you'd never walked out of one?
No, I haven't.
No, never.
Never. I stick through, but I usually credit that to the fact that I know what I'm going to go see. I know what I'm
Yeah.
getting into, and I've never really walked into something just so cold that the chance for me to walk out of something. So, only in doing the podcast, maybe I guess is probably would make me go see something that I probably would usually avoid.
But even then, you would stick through. You have a purpose
Yeah,
for
even
being
then
there.
I would stick through. Yeah.
Did you ever see movie 43, Angela?
No.
I did not know.
Neither of you did. Yeah. Yeah. You're good. Just don't even worry about it.
That actually, it kind of lined up, like, for the most part, because I was listening, when I would listen to the podcast, I would listen and kind of cut it off around the time that you would start doing reviews, just so I could still see something without knowing
keep it
anything
fresh,
about it. But movie 43, I hadn't known anything about it, and it happened to line up with one of those times when just, I'm nowhere around a theater, I can't get to a movie, anything like that. But I happened to catch, like, just a quick little bit of you just railing against this thing. And I was like, actually, I think I might just not do this one.
Me and Carlton had a pretty good fight on that one.
Yeah.
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 We still fight about that one. It still comes up.
That actually, I think, was one where I was, like, yelling at my phone.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, because I think he was saying, right, that he preferred it over Django?
Oh, man, he might have said something like that.
It wouldn't surprise me.
He would do that just to dig at me, though, because he knows that would drive me insane. He
Right.
knows it's a Tarantino
And
film.
I don't think that he realized, like, I'm at home screaming.
Yeah.
Just...
And Carlton's not here
man.
to defend himself, but he has actually since, I don't know how long ago it was, he texted me or something. I think he watched Django again and kind of admitted it's better than he thought it was originally.
Better than movie 43?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
It's not even worth reacting to, that ridiculous phrase. That's insane.
One thing that I'm sure he'll always stick to, no matter what, is Man of Steel. And
Oh, man, he loves that movie.
Yeah.
Really?
And
Oh, yeah.
God.
And again, I liked Man of Steel. I actually just watched it again recently. Right after all this news came out, it kind of inspired me to watch Man of Steel. I didn't sit there through the whole thing and just watch it. It's kind of the same thing. I just threw it on and had it on TV while I was doing some other stuff. And I still like Man of Steel. I am a fan of the movie. I think it has its problems. But man, he loves Man of Steel. He thinks it's the greatest superhero film ever made.
Wow.
Again, I don't mean to put words in his mouth, but I'm pretty sure that's his opinion.
I think so.
And yeah, he loves it, and that's great. But we definitely disagree on things about it because I don't love it that much.
Yeah.
No. And I also didn't love The Dark Knight Returns as much as I think he did. I definitely have problems with that movie.
That was the third, yeah?
Yeah, that was the third of the trilogy.
I had a lot of issues with that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We agreed on that one. I remember you and I talked about it, and you see that. You watch that honest trailer for Dark Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, that is.
I
That's
haven't
it.
seen it, no.
I think you had to have watched that.
No.
I thought you did. I guess not. I'm getting a Dark Knight Rises.
No, the only...
I kept saying Returns this whole podcast, and I meant Rises, except when we were talking about the comic.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't even notice because I
know.
knew what you meant.
I was just looking it up. That's why there was a
a.
pause there because I'm like, wait a second. I keep saying Returns. That's not Returns. That's the comic book.
Oh.
It's Dark Knight Rises. Anyway, the third film. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry for
no,
anyone yelling at the podcast as I keep getting that wrong.
The honest trailer that I watched today was Looper,
Oh yeah, we watched. The
and
honest
I
trailer.
do agree with that. Yeah.
Well, it wasn't the honest trailer. I was surprised there wasn't one. There was a How It Should Have Ended for Looper,
Okay.
and there was everything wrong with.
Yeah, that's the one I agree with.
Yeah.
Everything wrong with. Because they're right. There was a lot. A lot of
There
stuff.
wasn't. Man, the one I've watched, the everything wrong with the Purge.
Oh.
Man, that's a stuffed one. And I like that movie, but I think Yasha sent me a link to that one. It's like, hey, you got to watch this because Yasha's not much of a fan of the Purge.
Yeah.
And man, it was packed tight with stuff, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy is nitpicking the shit out of this movie.
And I never
I
saw
try
that,
not to
but
watch those things.
that's the one where, like, there's no laws for a day?
Yeah.
For a night, yeah.
Okay. I never saw it.
Yeah.
For what it is, it's actually pretty entertaining. I thought it was. It's don't take it too seriously, and the whole concept of the Purge. Okay, it's ridiculous, but it's actually it wasn't bad, and I like the Purge Anarchy, the sequel.
Yeah.
I mentioned that to other people, and they look at me like I thought you had good taste, and you're telling me you like the Purge. And I'm like,
I still say you should watch your next because
Oh yeah, I got to see that.
Yeah, I just that's one of my most recent favorites of a horror film. It was just, I don't know, something about it that was so well done that I really enjoyed it a lot. So since it's close to Halloween, if you can squeeze one in,
I'll squeeze it in before.
Try and watch it.
I've actually been meaning to, like, we kind of done that segment, You Haven't Seen What, and I was thinking of trying to fit in some, like, maybe a horror movie version of that. Because I was listening to, I think it was another podcast recently, and realizing I've never seen, I don't think, a Rob Zombie film.
Okay.
House of a Thousand Corpses.
Crazy stuff.
Salem's, what was it? Witches of Salem? Or what was that one called? The Salem?
I don't remember.
That was the most
I know which
recent
one you're talking about, but yeah, I don't remember the title of it.
And I was thinking about, I'm like, I need to see one, even though I've never heard like stellar things about any of his films.
I saw one once. I don't remember what it was called, but like the only thing that really stuck with me was like he had a 4-inch blade that like stabbed through a woman's torso and stuck her to a wall, and I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. That knife's not big enough, and it's the only thing I can remember from the movie.
So you like to look for the things that are inconsistent?
Not intentionally, no.
I like to let a lot of those things go.
I try. That one really stuck with me.
Yeah. It does happen. There are some that you just can't forgive.
Yeah. Time travel stuff tends to get to me.
Yeah.
It gets to me too, but
it gets to me too. I always, and I think we've talked about this, Angela.
Yeah.
Like, I have a problem a lot of times with time travel stuff. And there's rare times I feel like it works.
Yeah.
The Star Trek reboot is one. I think I liked how they handled that.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I'm like, whenever I hear something's going to start using time travel, I'm like, oh God, really? Like, ooh, please don't fuck this up.
There's definitely ways to do it right where I can let it go and I can just kick back and watch something, but fucking Looper,
Did you
man.
watch?
But you're a Doctor Who fan.
I am a Doctor Who fan.
It couldn't be more about time travel if you tried.
And it does not bother me, not nearly as much. I mean, you get into inconsistencies with writing, and sure, that bothers me, like Weeping Angels and shit like that, but it's fine. For the most part with movies, I can let it go, but then something like Looper comes along, and I just cannot let it go.
Oh, man.
Well, I'd be curious to see what you would think about, if you haven't already watched it, X-Men Days of Future Past.
No, I haven't seen it.
Because there's time travel involved in that one. I would wonder if there'd be anything about that would bother you.
Yeah,
my guess is no, but I could be wrong.
An honest trailer came out for that just recently, and it was
pretty
interesting because it compares it to Terminator pretty much the whole time. Or Terminator 2, I think. And I'm like, oh wow, they are kind of very similar. I hadn't really thought about that.
That actually, the Ultron trailer that we watched earlier.
Yeah.
We saw it on TV, and I caught, like, I don't remember what else I was doing, but I caught...
Like the end of it.
Yeah, just really quickly. And I actually thought it was a Terminator movie. Because it was all those kind of naked-looking skeleton robot things.
Yeah,
I could see that.
And I just sort of, like, flashed over to the TV, and I was like, oh, it's Terminator. That's weird. I didn't know that was doing a thing. And then I went back to whatever it was I was doing, and it wasn't until he showed me the trailer again right before this. I was like, oh, that's not Terminator. I see now.
Speaking of that, honest trailers, if you guys get a chance, and it shouldn't take too long, watch the honest trailer for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Is that out? I don't think I've seen that.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting.
All right.
I won't spoil it, but yeah, it's interesting.
Well, real quick, the Lords of Salem was a movie I was trying to think of. And,
Okay.
And I was wrong. I've seen Rob Zombie's Halloween remake. I did see that.
Oh, I thought you meant his own stuff.
But exactly. That's the stuff I'm thinking of is like his original stuff. Like I never saw House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects, or Lords of Salem. But I saw Halloween, which actually I liked that remake.
Yeah, I can never bring myself to watch it. I just don't like when they have to try and explain why evil people are evil. Why can't they just be evil for that sake?
Right. Well, unfortunately, I got to get out of here, so we're going to have to shut this down. But Angela, it has been a pleasure having you on.
Hey, thanks. It's been nice being here.
We should do this more often.
Yeah, it was fun.
It was. But for those of you listening, as usual, we'd like to know what you thought of the podcast. You can let us know by emailing us at feedback@flickereffect.com. You can find us on Facebook, Google+, and Twitter. You can find links to those accounts on our website over on the right-hand side. I'm David Lott.
I'm Bobby Jackson.
Ooh, and I'm Angela Lopez.
Thanks for listening.
Nice.